Reports of riots and protests again at the World Cup, a tiny protest in Brasilia, a more significant one in Rio. But it's important to remember that despite some of the more shocking reports, Associated Press coming out reporting that a police officer appeared to fire live ammunition, which is obviously a big concern. It's important to bear in mind the scale of the reports. The law enforcement officials here in Rio de Janeiro pointing out that we're talking about several hundred people out on the streets, and that is a big change from the Confederations Cup last summer when it was several 100,000 people, and on several occasions, indeed more than 1 million. The impression here is that there are certain individuals, certain groups, certain more extremist groups that they're in the forefront of these protests, unlike what happened last year when it was much more mainstream, much more rank and file, trade unions, pressure groups, and so on. Here, certainly the line that's being spun is that you're talking about a small group of determined, violent people who were behind the protest, at least last night, outside the Maracanã. And the police response, of course, was equally tough in that situation. Now, the authorities here, they do expect more protests. They expect peaceful protests. And they think that the people who are out there demonstrating peacefully have somehow acquired the ability to pick and choose when they go out there. They do not want to be associated with the violent protests, but of course, they do want to make their voice heard.
Be sure to download the new ESPN FC app for more football news, highlights and conversation. Available now on iTunes and Google Play.